The new DLC news just dropped, and boy, do we have some news to go over. I am so excited, man. The dopamine levels are through the roof right now. The first and most important thing is that we got an actual date that the first DLC is going to be coming out. It is going to be coming out on September the 13th, which is a Wednesday. Very weird choice, but it is a lot sooner than a lot of people thought. When people said fall, we thought October, but we are getting it in September, which is great news on a lot of different fronts. We're going to get new Pokemon sooner. And for those that like Draft League and who like my other content that you can check out in the top right-hand corner, we're going to start other Draft Leagues sooner. So it's just great news all around. On top of that, there were 4 new Pokemon revealed, and I'll be talking about all of them and what I think about them right now. The first Pokemon that was revealed was a candy apple Applin called Diplin, which I can only assume is going to be a grass fairy type. It hasn't been revealed yet, and apparently it's just going to be an evolution of Applin rather than an actual regional variant. We can only assume that this Pokemon is going to have a base 485 base stat total based on the fact that both Appleton as well as Flapple have that exact same base stat total. And the only type that I can associate with candy is fairy, so in my opinion, based on how past Pokemon are, such as Alcremie and Slurpuff, you can assume it's a grass fairy type, or maybe a dragon fairy type. Dragon fairy would be very cool. And I think its stats will look something like this, pretty similar to Appleton because it looks more defensive rather than offensive, and who knows, maybe there will be an offensive version of this as well. It'll probably have shell armor, still have ripen, and then some random third ability, maybe just weak armor. I can't really see them just giving this Pokemon a new ability, but maybe. The next Pokemon, and the Pokemon that I am probably the most excited to talk about, is our Galadon. Duraludon is getting an evolution, and this is crazy for a large number of factors. First of all, look at this guy. He looks so awesome. I am so excited. Me and all the other 11 Duraludon fans out there are eating good today. In theory, this Pokemon is going to be insane. Duraludon already has a base 535 base stat total, and you can assume they said, hey, Duraludon sucks. We introduced this Pokemon, he was supposed to be cool, he was supposed to be a staple, and he blew chunks. So we are actually going to do something we've never done. Other than Pikachu and Eevee, this is the first Pokemon that has a G-Max or Mega Evolution getting an evolution. So they broke that mold, they broke that wall. So now those Pokemon are capable of getting evolutions in the future, which is really cool because before we didn't think any Pokemon that had a G-Max form was capable of that. So now something like Garbodor could evolve in a black and white remake. Not only that, but also Duraludon has a great base stat total, 535. That's really, really good. The strongest Pokemon that evolves other than this, from what I can see at least, is going to be type null into Silvally, and that's a little bit different because it's just breaking the mask, and then every stat is 95 after that, so the 59 speed goes up to 95. I think this will be pretty dang close to 600 BST, maybe 590. I think the stats will look like what they are shown on screen. I think it'll keep Dragon Steel type, and based on how it looks, man, it could even have the Transistor ability, which would be absolutely insane and makes sense with the nerf to Transistor. I think it'll be a little bit slower, a little bit bulkier, and certainly hit a whole lot harder. And based on what we can tell, this Pokemon is probably going to be introduced in the second DLC. On top of that, we got 2 new Paradox forms that everybody knew were going to come. It was just a matter of when. We're going to have KObalion, first of all, who is going to be the future Paradox, who looks much better than the Virizion. As far as looks go, I think this would be a Steel and Electric type. I think that makes the most sense. Fighting Electric is also possible, of course, but Steel Electric not only makes sense, but would also be a pretty dang good typing. Magnezone is pretty good, man, but it's very slow, and that's one of the things that, you know, hinders it a little bit because Electric Steel otherwise is a pretty good offensive typing, especially with access to things like Volt Switch. So KObalion, if it's fast, which it looks like it most certainly is going to be, probably the same speed stat as Iron Leaves 104. This Pokemon, if it's Electric Steel, is going to be pretty good. Fighting Electric is also no joke. It's a very good offensive typing, and things like Iron Hands have been making great use of it this generation. The stats on screen are what I think this Pokemon are going to be. We know for a fact that it's going to have base 590 BST because of the fact that Iron Leaves and Walking Wake both have 590. I guess it could be 580, but we likely assume that it's going to be 590 alongside those Pokemon, so its stats are probably going to look something like that. And then the other Pokemon that I am super excited for, Raiku, finally got a form, and a lot of people don't like how this looks. I think it looks fantastic. I would have preferred a Velociraptor angle, but beggars cannot be choosers. It's almost certainly going to be an Electric Dragon type, and the only other type that would make sense in this case is going to be like Electric Ground. But for now, we're going to assume it's an Electric Dragon type, and we're going to assume Entei is also going to get some sort of a Dragon variant later on down the line. As far as its stats, I unfortunately think they are going to butcher this Pokemon a little bit. I think it's going to be a lot slower, but I think it's going to be supremely bulky and hit pretty hard. They kind of did my boy dirty. They just kind of stretched his neck a little bit, but I think his official art does him a lot more justice than his in-game model, and I'm certainly going to be making some videos on this specific Pokemon in the future. Obviously, Photosynthesis and Quirk Drive are going to be the abilities for these 2 Pokemon, and hopefully they'll be able to abuse them. I think KObalion will actually be pretty good, much better than Iron Leaves. I'm not quite sure about the Raiku, but hopefully he gets to see some usage. Other than that, we saw some really cool Pokemon that are going to be coming back. Most notably, we saw Clefairy, which means Clefable is going to be coming back in DLC 1, which everybody is going to love who plays OU. People who play Draft, not so much. Having another fairy is going to be pretty cool though. And then we saw things like Metagross as well as Skarmory coming back in DLC 2, so some very needed Steel and Fairy types look to be coming back. If you're a competitive player, then that's the only news that will interest you. There were also some news regarding the DLC and the stories, but that is all I'm going to cover. Let me know what you guys think would be the best new Pokemon that was introduced in this video. Personally, I think our Galadon is going to be insane, which also, by the way, I didn't mention this, entails Eviolite on Galadon, which is going to be insane. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Only about 50% of my viewers are subscribed. I make some really cool competitive content on this channel, and thank you guys so much for watching. And for now, guys, this has been John Jr. signing off.